It's late at night. Your phone suddenly rings. You glance at the screen, and your heart freezes. The number flashing before your eyes belongs to someone you know, someone who died days, weeks, or even years ago. You pick it up. Static whispers, maybe even a familiar voice, faint but undeniable. How would you explain it? A glitch? A cruel prank? Or something far more chilling? A call from the dead? For decades, people across the world have reported a terrifying phenomenon, receiving phone calls from loved ones who have already passed away. Some say it's technology glitching. Others believe it's proof that death isn't the end. In tonight's documentary, we'll dive into the strangest, most well-documented cases of ghostly phone calls. From victims of disasters to celebrities like Elvis Presley, these stories blur the line between technology and the afterlife. Stay with me, because later in this video, we'll cover a case where over 35 phone calls were made from a man already confirmed dead. And trust me, you won't believe what happened. And if you're still watching, it means you love these dark, mysterious stories. Hit that subscribe button right now, because we uncover real-life mysteries like this every single week. Background: what are calls from the dead? The idea of hearing from the dead is not new. For centuries, people claim spirits spoke through dreams, visions, or seances. But in the modern age, technology gave rise to a new kind of hunting: phone calls from beyond the grave. These calls usually happen shortly after someone dies. Friends or family say they hear the loved one's voice, or they get calls from numbers that should no longer exist. Sometimes the line is filled with static, sometimes with clear words of comfort, or even warnings. Skeptics argue it's all just accidents, bad signals, or grief playing tricks on the mind. But some of these stories have strange details to ignore. Let's start with one of the most famous cases. Case 1. Charles Peck, the train crash mystery, 2008. On September 12, 2008, tragedy struck Los Angeles when a Metrolink commuter train collided head-on with a freight train. One of the 25 victims was Charles E. Peck, a 49-year-old man traveling to meet his fiancée. Here's where it gets eerie. In the hours after the crash, Peck's family members received a total of 35 phone calls from his cell phone. His fiancée, his stepmother, his brother, and other relatives all reported getting calls. Every time they answered, all they heard was static, sometimes faint clicking, but no voice. The family clung to hope. They thought maybe Charles was alive, trapped under the wreckage, trying desperately to reach them. Rescuers used the phone signals to try and locate him, but when they finally found his body, they discovered something chilling. Charles had died instantly in the crash. Experts later confirmed he couldn't have made those calls. Even stranger, the phone stopped making calls the moment his body was recovered. Was it a glitch, or one last attempt from beyond to say goodbye? Case 2. Gracie's Call, England, 1950s. Not all ghostly calls come from disasters. Some are personal, intimate, and deeply emotional. In the 1950s, a woman named Esther Cox from the UK lost her dear friend Gracie. Days after Gracie's passing, Esther's phone rang. When she picked it up, she froze. It was Gracie's number. And on the other end, she swore she heard Gracie's voice. Calm, familiar, reassuring. Gracie simply told her not to worry, that everything was okay. Then the line went dead. Esther was shaken, but she felt comforted at the same time. To her, it wasn't a prank. It wasn't imagination. It was her friend reaching out one last time. Stories like Esther's may not be dramatic, but they touch something deeply human. The idea that love and friendship might survive even after death. Case 3. The 9/11 Phantom Calls, 2001. September 11th, 2001. The day the world changed forever. Thousands died in the terrorist attacks on New York City and Washington, D.C. But in the hours after the towers fell, strange reports began to spread. Families claimed they received phone calls from loved ones trapped in the towers, even after the buildings had collapsed. Some people reported answering calls from numbers that should have been destroyed. Others said they heard familiar voices, soft, broken, sometimes just saying, "I'm okay." The most famous case tied to 9/11 is Todd Beamer, a passenger on Flight 93. His call to an operator before the crash is verified and logged, but many of the other alleged calls were not. Phone companies had no record of them. So what were these families hearing? Grief, hallucinations, or something unexplainable? Loved ones reaching out one last time through lines that shouldn't even exist anymore? Case 4. Frank Jones and the Chico Xavier Calls, Brazil, 1970s. The phenomenon isn't limited to the US or Europe. In Brazil during the 1970s, many families reported receiving mysterious phone calls from their dead relatives. Some of these cases became linked with Chico Xavier, a famous psychic and spiritualist. One grieving father, Frank Jones, claimed he received calls from his late son's number. The voice, he said, was unmistakable. His son reassured him he was alive in spirit and no longer in pain. While skeptics dismissed it as a fraud or Xavier's influence, the families involved swore the calls were real. To them, it wasn't just comfort, it was proof that love survives death. Case 5. Elvis Presley's Friend, The Mysterious Call, 1977. Even celebrities aren't free from ghost stories. After Elvis Presley's sudden death in 1977, his close friend J.D. Sumner claimed he got a strange phone call late one night. When he answered, the voice on the line softly whispered his name. To Sumner, it sounded exactly like Elvis. And then, silence. Skeptics say it was grief playing tricks, maybe even a prankster. But Sumner always insisted it was Elvis reaching out from beyond the grave. The story added fuel to the already wild rumors surrounding Elvis's death. Some said he never really died. Others believed it was his spirit making one final connection. Bonus case, Janine de Wild, Netherlands, 1979. One of the most unsettling cases comes from the Netherlands. In 1979, Janine de Wild, a teenage girl, was killed in a car accident. In the days that followed, her parents and friends reported receiving multiple phone calls where they clearly heard Janine's voice. She spoke calmly, telling them she was okay, that she was safe. Even more chilling, some of these calls were heard by more than one person at the same time, making it harder to dismiss as imagination. To this day, no explanation has been found. Analysis. What could it be? So what do we make of all this? Science gives us a few possibilities. Glitches in old phone systems, especially landlines, where crossed wires could mimic voices. Grief hallucinations. Our brains under stress can trick us into hearing familiar voices. Hoaxes and pranks. Sadly, some people may take advantage of grief. But then there are cases like Charles Peck's 35 phone calls or Janine's voice being heard by multiple people at once. These push the boundaries of logic. Believers argue these calls are proof that the dead can still reach us, using technology as a bridge between worlds. Whether you believe these stories or not, one thing is certain. They remind us how deeply we long to stay connected with the people we love, even after death. Maybe these calls are just glitches. Maybe they're tricks of the mind. Or maybe they are whispers from the other side, carried across wires and signals we don't yet fully understand. So what do you think? Are these calls from the dead real, or just stories shaped by grief and imagination? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if this documentary sent chills down your spine, don't just scroll away. Smash the like button, subscribe for more real mysteries, and share this with a friend who loves spooky stories. Because remember, the next time your phone rings late at night, you might want to check twice who's really calling.